Hey everybody, it's Jay Gordon. Well, I'm back. I decided that, brand new year, let's play with a brand new service on Azure. And today I'm going to be using Azure Container Apps, which is a service that allows you to run microservices in containerized applications, on a serverless platform. So we're going to build microservices using containers, and you have support for Kubernetes event driven processing. You have support for using Dapper Dev along, or Dapper, however you want to say it, to build your microservices. All that is supported within Azure Container Apps. There are some really great ways of using it. Let's take a look at some example scenarios from the documentation. And if we take a look, and I'm going to put myself down there. If we take a look here, we've got this great doc over here on the Docs website. I have that in the notes for the video. You can take a look there. What we've got here are some example scenarios and public API endpoints, background processing, event-driven processing, microservices. This is a great platform to run all of these. And here's one of the things that I really love. You can auto-scale your apps to 0. So when it's not in use, it's not going to necessarily need as much infrastructure. And obviously, because of that, it'll scale to 0, and you won't be concerned as much about charges. So right now, the service is in preview. And what we're going to do real quick is show you how to actually deploy one of these container apps. So I've got the Azure portal here, got some resource groups. And what I'm going to be doing is looking at this quick start. So quick start, deploy your first container app. So we're going to be working with that, and we're going to be using the Cloud Shell within Azure. I'm going to be using Bash in order to get all this done. So let's not dilly-dally. Let's get into it, because I'm going to make this really quick. So as it says here, Container Apps enables you to run microservices and containerized apps on a serverless platform. The prerequisites for this is you're going to need an active subscription. You're also going to need the Azure CLI. So to get started, if you're using something like a terminal locally, you'll want to log into your Azure account using the AZ login command. Next, we're going to want to make sure that we have the Azure Container Apps extension in our CLI. So I'm just going to copy this. I'm pretty sure I've already got it, but let's install the extension. And so now that'll grab the specific extension for Azure Container Apps. It'll put it into your Cloud Shell. It'll make sure that you've got everything up and ready to go so you can start creating. So the installed extension is there. It is in preview. And the next thing is we want to register the provider. Providers allow you to use specific services within Azure, and you can just run that command, AZ provider register. The namespace is Microsoft.web. That's going to allow you to create what you need within your namespace. Next, we need to set some environment variables, and these are all Bash. There is a PowerShell option here, but Bash is my thing. So I'm going to just use these. Now, the location is limited at this point because we are not necessarily out of preview. So within preview, there's only certain locations that are available to actually create this. So we're going to go ahead and specify a resource group. We'll just call it My Container Apps. The location, Canada Central. Log analytics, so we can get information to be able to find out how things are working on our containers. We're going to create a workspace called My Container Apps Logs, and then we're going to create an environment. The environments give you different, almost like slots that you can install things in for specific environments. So it creates, as it says here, a secure boundary around a group of container apps. So if we wanted to do a blue-green deployment, we'd want to create it on multiple environments and then set 80% to, say, our old version and 20% to our new version. And when everything looks good, we can shift it 100% to our new version. So let's go ahead and set these environment variables. Great. Next, we're going to want to create our resource group. So we've created uh, a resource group environment variable. And so all we need to do is run this command, the az group create. It'll create a resource group that will be storing everything that we need in. And you can see right now we've got our new resource group. It's in Canada Central. The name is My Container Apps. It's succeeded as far as its provisioning state. So now we need to create our environment. An environment, Azure Container Apps creates a secure boundary around a group of container apps, and that's deployed into the same virtual network and writes the same logs to the same workspace. So we need to create our log analytics workspace that we talked about before. Just go ahead and click copy. It'll use AZ Monitor to create this workspace. So paste that in. It'll take a second and it will create that. Looking good, looking good. And while it's doing this, I want to remind you that this is in preview. So there are some features that are available, some features that are not. And what we're going to do is just show you how to create it based on the documentation we have. I think that makes it really easy for you just to start learning. And hi, thanks for watching. I do appreciate it. So our log space is ready to go. We've created the log analytics space. And now what we need to do is retrieve the log analytics client ID and secret. And we're going to need these specifically so we can specify them within our configuration of our app, container app. So we're going to have to give it a client and a secret so it knows exactly the correct log analytics instance to store all of our logs in. So I'll go ahead. It'll save it here as an environment variable. You can see here if I echo, excuse me, let's try that again. So let's echo this. We've got our ID right there. So we'll be able to start our next, which is we're going to get the client secret. Going to store that as an environment variable. So what it does is it queries the log analytics workspace, gets the shared key, and then what we do is we specify it as an environment variable. Great. So we've got our credentials to be able to store our logs in a log analytics workspace. And so now what we're going to do is we're actually going to create an environment. So we said that environment was kind of a gated off area that we can use in order to create our different applications and have them isolated within a single container app session or deployment, I should say. So let's go ahead and click copy. We can see it creates a new environment, specifies the resource group, specifies the login and the key, and our location, which is going to be Canada Central. So let's just click copy, paste that in, and it says it's in preview and under development. So we'll give that a second to go ahead and finish up. It's running now, so it's sent this to Azure Resource Manager, and Azure Resource Manager is going to create the container app environment that we need. And then once that's done, we see right now we've got create a container app. So now that we've created an environment, we can deploy our first container application into that environment. And let's take a quick look. You can see we've got this container world, hello world, or I should say container apps, hello world. Now, let's say you had a different type of application. You could use that. If you want, you can create an Azure Container Registry, an ACR, and then have that ACR actually where you deploy your image from. So let's say you've created your own container image for an application that you have. What you can do is specify this full ACR URL within image, and specify the container name and the version that you want to actually install into our container app deployment. So our deployment is ready to go. Now it's time to take a look. Let's look at here. We've created the environment. We don't have to worry about managing the containers manually because the app is going to do it. We've got our default domain that's created for our environment. We've got a static IP. Great. So we're almost there. And let's take a refresh here. And we can see here, here's our resource group. And within our resource group, you can see now we've got our environment and our container log space. And within here, you can see we've got our environment created. So now what we need to do is actually create the deployment that our environment's going to use. So we'll just copy this. We'll paste it in, and we can see it's going to create a new container app application. It's going to name it My Container App. It's going to put it in our resource group. It's going to use the environment that we created. It's using this base image that's our demo. So it's a hello world, very simple. Target port, so the port that we're going to be able to actually access this application from, port 80. Ingress, we're going to say external, so that people from external resources can actually get to it. You can make an internal one if necessary. And then finally, we're going to query at the end the configuration ingress fully qualified domain name, so the URL that we can actually access our deployment from. So let's go ahead and click return. And what we're going to do is wait for our deployment to get verified. And how are we going to do that? We're going to wait for this Azure Resource Manager build to complete. Once it's done running, we can go ahead and start checking the fully qualified domain name. So let's take a look again at our resource group. We're in My Container Apps. You can see we've got these right now. Let's go back, refresh. And it looks like it's finished. Let's go to resource groups, My Container Apps. And all right, so this says it's ready to go. And if we go to my environment, see it's there. Trying to look for it, just takes, there it is. Just took a sec for it to update in the portal. So you can see here, it's given us this fully qualified domain name that we can use. And then if we go into the actual container app in the portal, you can see the application URL is right here as well. So if I just click that, you can see it's the verified deployment right here that we had in our documentation. So we've got our container app deployed. What can we do next? So we can go here to our container app within the portal, and we can see we have some different settings. So we can configure access control if we want for our different users within our Azure AD organization. We can create tags, just basically, so we can say name demo app. Very simple. We'll add a metadata tag to this. We can take a look and create secrets that we can access from our application. So go ahead and click add. We can enter a secret key. We'll call it JSecret. We'll give it a value, just like any other JSON doc. We'll just call the value ABC123. We'll add that. And so now if our application needs to access that, we can have a secret that'll allow you to store and grab. You can get information on how to grab secrets in the documentation. Ingress. So we've got ingress enabled, port 80. We're accepting traffic from anywhere. If we wanted to modify these, we can. Continuous deployment. So if I wanted to configure GitHub so that I can have continuous deployment for my application, I can go here and specify my account, specify the repo that I'm going to be working with. Here's demo app, the branch that I'll be working with, and then we need to create a resource, or I should say a container registry. So it's where it would actually build this application within GitHub. But we're not going to do that now. It's just a demo. We've got a revision management here, which shows our environments that we've created everything within. And so you can see right now we've got this main, and if we wanted to have a new revision, what we can do is create it. We can see we've got ways to scale, and we also have Dapper, so we can enable Dapper and use the binary alongside. All right, so we've created everything, and now we want to delete it because we don't want to use resources we don't need. The best way to kind of do that, I'm going to just grab the resource group name, go back to the Cloud Shell, and I could run the, just take a second, AZ group, delete, name, the name, and it will ask me if I want to perform it. I'll say yes, and it'll go and delete all of our resources. So you can create one of these also within the portal. It's pretty simple. You can just go here, go to the container apps by just typing container apps in the search bar. You can see I've got a few up already. Here's one, another one that I've created. And this one, I believe, is just the same way of using a resource, or I should say a container registry that I created. I've got continuous deployment configured if I want it, but that's pretty much it. So I've quickly, in less than 20 minutes, I showed you how to create a container app using this new service that's in preview. If you'd like to get more information about it, check the link in the show notes below. I think you'll be able to go and get directly to this quick start so that you can start building one of your own. So until next time, remember every Thursday from 11 a.m. Pacific to 12 p.m. or we're also working on Eastern times, 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. Eastern. Join us on Learn TV, aka.ms/Learn TV, for Azure Fun Bites. So we'll do a live show every week. This week, we're going to be talking about Azure Sentinel, and I think you're really going to enjoy it. So until then, thanks for joining me for this short little get together, and I'm looking forward to seeing you all more in the new year. Take care.